Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to another episode of the Vertical Stars podcast, third season. My loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. This is an amazing episode because Sanford Greene boards the mothership to discuss Dune from Marvel Comics. Now, come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hi, Mr. Greene. Thank you so much for coming to the Vertical Stars podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Totally my pleasure. I always start off with a question of inspiration to inspire your love for comics and who your earliest influences.
Earliest influences, obviously the perennials, the John Burns and
Mm.
Walt Simonson's. Shortly after that, obviously, the next transition is the Art Adams, and then the Jim Lees,
Mm.
um, Tom McFarlane's, if you will.
Mm.
Yep.
So it's really great. The more I do these interviews, the more similar names pop up all the time. And Lee does, McFarlane does, Byrne. What Simon said.
Hmm.
It is interesting how influential the legends can or so.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll say, but the one that I think kind of influenced not necessarily all of them, but he's more of a contemporary to like John Byrne,
Mm.
but definitely was an influence to the Jim Lees and the Todd McFarlane's was and maybe even some degree Art Adams is Michael Golden.
Mm.
Um he's definitely the guy that I still um I get influence from.
Now, we're going to dive deeper into Doom in just a moment, but since you brought up some legendary artists, there's a couple of panels, a couple of pages in Doom that felt to me like George Perez a little bit. Was there some George Perez influence going on in there?
Not necessarily in the drawing style, maybe in the storytelling, just in the intricate panels and what have you. I've always been a fan of that, but not anything super directly towards him.
Yeah, there's the one with the two pages, the ones where all the heroes are coming together to fight Galactus. Is that
Yeah,
the massive page? To me, I just brought to my brain was George Perez.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
those
yeah.
scenes.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
So for Doom, you're credited as being the plotter, the co-plotter, and the artist behind on Doom for Marvel Comics. So how do you get involved in the project?
I pitched the idea. They liked the idea, which was a bit of a surprise. Usually when I pitch ideas, it kind of takes it's either not received at all or it gets kind of like revamped with someone else at the helm of it and they kind of come
Hmm.
along for the ride. This is the first time where they saw uh they were into the idea and they saw the potential of me, being at the helm of it. Truth be told, they wanted to do they were interested, I should say, in doing a more limited series of it. But I felt if I'm writing this, is my first time into this, I
Hmm.
kind of need I need to have a bit of my sea legs under me, if you will, really getting the lay of how uh, Marvel really works, and that's where Jonathan Hickman came in because he was obviously he is I guess for the most part, the architect of the current Marvel universe.
Hmm.
And we happen to be friends, and I thought it was good just to bring him in to help guide and oversee, making sure things, really line up and make sense.
No, you're a great talent. Mr. Hickman's a great talent. You're both plotting the story together based on what you originally had. Is it difficult to then work with somebody else's vision as well and try to mesh together, or was it more him helping guide your own vision, or was it a combination of both?
It's a combination of both. Like I said, I had the idea, the initial idea, overall story concept. We got together a few times and started talking more breakdown of the story, and I came up with I guess, the Marvel style of writing, the old Marvel style. I wrote it in that format, and Jonathan came in and gave us the dialogue to go along with that.
And I think it's a brilliant story. Now, for those who don't know or will soon know about Doom as they pick up the issue after listening to us talk, it takes place in a near future. When
Hmm.
you had the discussion with Marvel, Marvel has a the way they handle things is, there's the What If comic books. There's kind of like, as DC would call them, the Elseworlds comic book or the other dimensional comic books.
Hmm.
This is called a near future Marvel. So are we talking alternate dimension? Are we talking a what if? Is it something that directly is connected to a continuity that we'll eventually see within the Marvel universe?
Yes.
Can you be more specific?
It's right now it's just a really um we thought it was a really important story about who Doom is.
Hmm.
Um, and honestly, you can tell that story in any, whether it can be the parallel universe or ultimate universe or what have you. You can tell that story, which is what makes this so unique and gratifying in a lot of ways
Hmm.
because you have that freedom to kind of slide in between realities, if you will. So yeah, that's the best I can tell you right now.
But it sounds like there's something bigger brewing from it. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
I can't confirm or deny any of that, man. I can't really say that. No.
Now, what I really do, well, I like a lot of things about the issue. Glad I had the pleasure of reading it. Not only is it does allow us to explore who Doom is, but also explore who Galactus is.
Right.
Now, in the exploration of Doom, um, most people who know Doom, especially if you're not a big fan of comic books, you know him strictly as the villain. He's a super villain. This story, he's basically a hero. When you think about Doom, is he capable of being a straight hero, or is there always an ulterior motive to why he would do something heroic, in your opinion?
Well, that's what makes, again, that's why I really was so interested in telling this story. Even as a youngster reading comics, for the, first time you see this character and you're enamored with his whole makeup.
Mm,
And I think that's the thing that's um uh, so he has so many he has kind of like you think he has kind of like um one direction,
mm,
but he can kind of veer off into these gray areas, which again, the nuance of that is what I wanted to explore. There is moral compass, even when he's doing these on the surface, these outright villainous things. So, if you go just a few layers below it, in his understanding, he is doing something that's valiant or something that has, in his view, a morality to it. And that's honestly what we wanted to just explore was how he views his purpose, but also how his purpose affects everything. I mean, if you think about it, that's the way he's been from the beginning of Marvel. I mean, honestly, you can touch on other few other characters that kind of have that.
mm,
And to truth be told, you can do any character, what how they go about doing something affects other things, but this Doom is probably one of the few that has touched every corner of the Marvel universe, um, and beyond to some degree, because of that moral compass. He's literally, I think, to me, almost the pulse of the Marvel universe.
mm.
He kind of stands right in the middle of both sides, if you will.
And I think it's also interesting that the story is very much, or our understanding of Doom comes from the perspective of Valeria. Am I saying the name correctly?
Hmm.
Valeria.
Yeah, right.
So how does our understanding of Doom is that impacted from the perspective of Valeria? Because once again, we're not seeing Doom directly or his thoughts directly, is how he's viewed through his goddaughter of Valeria.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, to some degree, Valeria almost represents his conscious to some degree. I think that's where we are we are Valeria in some ways. We view Doom as a little more than just a villain. I mean, I think that's kind of one of the things that one of the questions you asked was, his his motives. We as fans of the character, we understand his motives. We understand his his morale. We understand his hubris, and that's what makes us fans.
Hmm.
And so we use Valeria to almost kind of answer a few or yeah, to answer a few questions of the very things that we knew. So it's almost a confirmation of, yes, this is why Doom will be, at the end of the day, he will be uh victorious, if you will. That's not a spoiler or anything, but that's because there's a line in the story where Valeria talks about how she in the search, because that's what the story at the beginning takes place, where she's on, I guess, a a search, yeah, like a search mission to find him. He's somewhere floating in space because of a cataclysmic event. Um, and when she finds him, she basically, it explains how long she's been looking for him. And in he wanted to, he was amazed that she was still alive, if you will. Not going too far into the story, but even the way that she explains how she did that, he still, in his view, felt like the way that she survived, or the way she came out of this situation, he would have taken it a step further. And that's the best way I can say it without kind of really spoiling what happened. And again, that's what makes him so um, interesting, is that he has this insatiable drive that is unmatched, in the Marvel universe, and that very uh, character, that hubris is the very thing. Like, he's like, I can look at a god and still go, you know what, I'm doomed. You
Hmm.
might be a god, but I'm Victor Von Doom. Like, who thinks like that? But him. That's, it's so, again, it's taking that. Again, that's not about the story. That's just his character that I'm speaking on. You take that and then you put it into the story, and we go deeper into that character, that hubris, and how that hubris literally can be a thing that can destroy the universe or save it.
And I really think and I really do love the choice of Valeria because I really do feel like Valeria, being the goddaughter, understands Doom in a way that most don't, or at least sees a side of Doom that most of us wouldn't see. And I think she's a fantastic vehicle to which to understand him better. I think
Right.
that was a great choice.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. We wanted to have something that was a little more personal. Obviously, we didn't want to go. We're talking about a near future type timeline. We didn't want to go and use characters that were no longer alive, or like his mother or anything like that,
Hmm.
but we still wanted to use. So we started thinking about even that, and how the lengths that he went to, in the storyline of Triumph and Torment. This is kind of a homage towards stories like that, Death of Captain Marvel,
Hmm.
if you will. We wanted to uh, have some kind of personal relationship in the story that has a similar effect to what he had with his mother. Um, Obviously not as deep as his mother, but definitely something that it touches on that same personal relationship, like his like what he had with his mother.
And I think another great choice that you have is that the main adversary of the story is Galactus, as we mentioned
Hmm.
earlier. And for a lot of people, Galactus, maybe it's almost like Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is often viewed as just a villain from those who don't know comic books. Galactus is also often viewed as this kind of like eater of world. He's kind of almost like this force of nature. But you also
Hmm.
give him more in this comic book as well. You kind of dove into motivations. There's a reason why he's doing what he's doing. He's not just completely not just like this force of nature. He's now this feels like this more complicated being that has a
Hmm.
purpose.
Right.
Um, how is Galactus a great um foil for Doom?
Well, again, this looking at some of these touchstone moments throughout Marvel history, Galactus and Doom are almost kind of like in a weird kind of way. Um, they're the same in terms of they have a similar path, I guess, if you will. Even though we don't view Galactus as a person per se. He's a force of nature, but when he takes the form of an actual character, it comes across a similar. There's a similar motive to some degree. Again, nuance enough there to where there's times where, for his purpose, he will serve the greater good. Um, just in the same breath, he will, for his purpose, serve something not good. And there's no qualms about it. It's all about the end goal. Doom obviously is just like that. So, um, and we just thought it would be really interesting. Again, story that has been told many times before, but why not take it to the level that I think a lot of people have been wondering over the years about this character in Galactus. What if he obviously is this force of nature, but what if this force of nature becomes so violent and so relentless in his destruction of his goal of achieving ultimate, for lack of better words, um, satisfaction. I guess trying not to what he wants to do and what we know him as. He goes about it in this story to where it's not enough to be what he's been for, since the beginning of his existence. But now he's taking it up a notch that is very scary. And again, that's something that even when I was doing my research on the story to create the story, that's part of what how it started was I just asked a question like, wow, has this guy ever or this entity ever just gotten so out of control that it is literally what would happen if he goes, completely nuclear to some degree on the galaxy. Okay, let's do some research on that. There's a few moments that it touches on that, but not quite like what I'm thinking. So let's create this backdrop, and that's the thing about even this story. It's about that, but it's kind of the secondary story, because the primary story is about Doom and
Hmm.
who he is. Um, and honestly, it's about Doom and how Galactus, um, it's about Galactus and why he has become what he is in the story. Partly is it's Doom, Doom that kind of pushes this thing, or at least he preempts. He's thinking he's preempting something from happening and he fails at the attempt to intercept, and yeah. So as the rest, as they say, is it goes down, and yeah, and that's the other thing too. When I'm explaining the story, it's so hard because so many like explaining it is you have to be so vague about it. Won't be one because it's just a one shot,
Yeah.
but then there's a lot of things there that if I say any more, it just adds to giving the story away.
Right, right, right,
Of
right.
so I'll
Well,
be quiet. I'll be quiet.
but well, I will say one thing about without to give anything away. I don't think. Galactus. I mean, we kind of think we know how powerful Galactus is, but in the comic book, you see him at a level that you never considered before with him because he's fighting at a level that is far beyond, I think, what you would normally consider for Galactus because of
Right,
three fights.
right.
I mean, it feels like a hit. I mean, is that an upgrade to his power, do you think, or do you think that's something he was always capable of, and he just never made it that far in his desire?
I like to believe it's something that he was always capable. I mean, obviously, what we're telling in the story is about what he really is capable of. If it gets to the point to where his ultimate goal has to be achieved, if this is where he ends up, this is where he will go, the length he will go to achieve that. So yeah, I think he's always had that.
And I will say the art for people who have not seen the comic book yet, the art is brilliant. I absolutely love the art.
Thanks.
The early scenes of Galactus, there's some shots that are just truly like majestic. Like you get like a sense of this power, majesty, this ominous about him. So when you're thinking about him, especially early on, I'm trying to remember. There's one image which this I mean there's a lot of shadow on him, but it's mostly just like his form and his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
When you were trying to capture the essence of Galactus, what were you thinking, and what was your approach to capture that essence of him?
I mean, honestly, it was going back and looking at him um, in the early times of the Fantastic Four and what Jack Kirby did. Um, Even though you see him in those stories, he was more um, science
Mm,
based, if you will, exploring galaxies and universes, but he still had this majesticness to it. And I just wanted to take that notion and make it a little more terrifying, to be honest with you. If you see this thing, you know, just towering through the galaxy, it that's pretty terrifying.
mm,
Like honestly, he's a cosmic storm. Like someone, I think, I don't know who coined that phrase, but that's what he is. He's just again a force of nature. You see a hurricane or a tornado and what it can do. Just imagine a galactic, version of that. That's
mm.
pretty terrifying. So, a combination of forces of nature, natural forces of nature versus a Kirby spin to it is how I um, came up with this version of him.
Now, there's another shot that I've got this I really like as well. Oh, it's like a three shot. It happens at the beginning, so I don't think this is spoiling anything. But when you
Hmm.
show Galactus at his power, but then you kind of show like almost like an aged or like looking
Mm.
Galactus. I
Hmm.
kind of go over like how because that three shot is very interesting. Kind of how you see Galactus at his most ominous and powerful. And you kind of see this like weakened kind of looking Galactus. Like kind of go
Hmm.
over like how you develop both aspects of him or both
Yeah,
levels of him.
yeah. In many ways, it's more of not what he looks like physically, but what he looks like spiritually, mentally, if you will. Um, he's losing it. Um, and if you ever seen anyone that um, from an emotional standpoint, where they become out of control, enraged, uh, nonsensical, types of reaction.
Hmm.
That's kind of what I was trying to tell in those visuals. Like again, it's a little unsettling to see someone do that, but just imagine a force in nature like Galactus doing
Hmm.
something like that.
Now another great visual you got to do for once again talking about Doctor Doom. I don't think it's giving away too much. Maybe it is. If it is, I will edit this part out. Where you kind of create a new costume for Doom.
Mm,
Without going too much detail into the nature of the costume, but it's very cool. So when you're
thank you.
developing this new Doom, uh, and you designed it, which aspects of the design do you felt had to be Doom because it's quintessential has to be this to be Doom, and how much did
Hmm.
you decide about how to develop the rest of the costume? If you can say so without spoiling too much.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a little spoilery. He does have a new look when it's all said and done. If you've seen any of the pages in terms of the first, I think, 3 or 4 pages, Doom doesn't look too hot, for lack of better words. Again, that's where Valeria goes on his rescue mission
Hmm.
to retrieve him. And when she retrieves him, she basically revives him. That part I won't really go into of how she does that or what she has to do that. But that that part is how he begins to have this new look, but it's still a very similar look. But it just plays upon a lot of the elements that is used to bring him back and become even more powerful, if you will. Um, but yeah, that was very important. I mean, obviously, you can't do um, him. You can't redesign him, but so much because the iconic hood cloak.
Hmm.
You can't do much with it. But then I don't know how I came up with this idea. I don't know. I might have been looking at anime or something and I saw something and it just sparked an idea and I pitched it to our editor Will Moss and he really liked the idea. He liked all the ideas, which was kind of cool. um so yeah, that's probably as much as I can say.
So another part that's kind of interesting is that you're credited as the co-colorist with I'm just checking the name, Rochelle
Rosenberg.
Rosenberg, yes.
Hmm.
So when you were splitting the coloring duties, were there certain aspects that were going to be part of the story that's being focused on just Rochelle's going to do and others you're going to cover, or was it just like alternate page and then trying to match styles?
She did the overall color and I went in and push some things around and tried, just to help give it a little more of what I'm used to. Because this is our first time working together. And she, like anyone else, she's going by her palette. And then I have a specific thing in my brain that, she can't read my mind. She,
Hmm.
obviously. So I had to go in and edit things that, from a visual standpoint of what I was seeing in my mind.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much, it's just a collaborative back and forth.
Now, I'm thinking about the story itself. Would you describe the story as being more of a tragedy or a prophecy?
Mm. A little of both.
Okay.
A tragic prophecy.
And I also like to I like the I mentioned earlier the in my opinion the like the George Perez image when you had all the heroes involved. Were there particular heroes that you had in the image for a particular purpose? Were there these just ones that you always wanted to draw, or is there some other reason why certain heroes appear in some of these? I think it's 2 pages, or other reasons.
Mm. It's a little of I just wanted to draw as many cool Marvel characters as possible. Actually, on my drawing table, I have my sketchbook, and in the sketchbook, I started to just jot down when I was writing and plotting out the story of who I thought would be really cool in conveying Galactus's threat level. Um, and it started with kind of your big guys, if you will, and it just kept going and going. I pulled out my official handbook of the Marvel Universe, and I started thumbing through that, and I was just thinking, oh wow, it would be really cool to draw Sasquatch. I've never drawn him before. Okay, put him in there, where it makes sense, and that was the part that was such a thrill, was to literally put characters in there that it just they weren't just there to be there. They all had a specific place, and they told the story. There are certain characters that are together. Obviously, you have your X-Men, they'll be together, the Fantastic Four, they'll join together. They're all together as one big united front. And then there's other characters in there that aren't necessarily heroes, if you will. They total line of, again, gray area characters. They're in there. That's the part that was so gratifying. It wasn't just me throwing in random characters just to say, "Hey, look, I drew," you know, I don't know, Stingray. You know, I threw him in there, but no, he's in a specific scene to fit that part of the story.
Hmm. And like I said, and I love it. For the listeners who are listening to this, it's already out now. You can get it. I have my copy. Um, and I know you mentioned that you're not going to say whether or not it's part of a bigger part of the Marvel universe or not. So what's next for you?
What is next? Well, I am working on if anyone is familiar with my series over at Image Bitterroot, along with David Walker and Chuck Brown, we're coming back. That I don't know if that's I don't know if that's an exclusive or not. I've done other podcasts and shared that story.
Yeah.
But it's we're looking to launch that next year. I'm working actually on issue one right now. So that's the immediate thing. Um, Honestly, at the same time, I think Red Hood and um, I think The Hill, Red Hood
Oh,
and The
okay.
Hill. I've done some work on that with Sean Martinborough and and oh my gosh, there's a few guys that are working on that actual story. Tony Atkins, he fellow artist. I think that's out now as well. So, you know, those are kind of the things that are happening that I can talk about. There's other stuff, obviously, but yep, that's it.
Well, when you're able to talk about these other projects, can you come back on and talk about them?
Yeah, that'd be great. Definitely, even with Bitterroot, come back on and share where we're going with that.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, come on. Also, it'd be cool to do a panel as well with you guys for Bitter Roots and have Mr. I think I've done not this show, but when I did a previous show, I think I've spoken to him before. So yeah, be absolutely awesome. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Doom was a great issue. I really enjoyed reading it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Have a great night, sir.
All right, you too.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Birth of Stars podcast. Please help me battle the algorithms by liking and subscribing. Be sure to turn for the next episode when Nick Edwards boards the mothership to discuss Stilettos now on Kickstarter. Until next voyage, travel on.